What's up everyone? Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Josh Brackett. I'm a FinTech project manager and I'm here on YouTube to share the personal finance journey that I'm on. In today's video, I'm going to share with you something that I have recently started using that I'm very excited about. And lo and behold, it's a spreadsheet. But it's not just any spreadsheet. It's a spreadsheet that I've been using to help me manage my finances and get a better understanding of where and how I'm spending my money. It's actually something I'm super excited about because it's something that has totally changed my life. Something that I've always put off for the majority of my life have been my finances. I've always considered them out of sight, out of mind. It's easier to ignore them than to come face to face with the reality of how much you spend and how much credit card debt you might have, or just your general state of finances. So developing this system over the past few months has really helped me get a handle on my finances, and it's currently helping me make the steps and the strides to my 2023 financial goals. Before we jump into the spreadsheet, I do want to cover a few points. First and foremost, this is something that has taken me years to figure out. I have struggled with my finances pretty much my entire adult life. And I've tried the apps, I've tried spreadsheets that I was updating on the daily basis, I've tried setting budgets, I've tried getting low limit credit cards, I've tried just using a single credit card. I've never been able to get a good grasp on my spending. I've also always had sort of an issue with budgeting. And I think it has to do with this idea that you can only enjoy so much of a certain category before you go over your budget. And by setting those limits, it just feels like the opportunity to learn isn't quite there, and it's more of just don't spend more than this amount on this category of whatever. And my issue with budgets is that you would set that limit, and then you would go and you would spend, and you would update your budget, and then you would go over that limit. And once you go over that limit, for me personally, I would stop updating my budget because I already broke the threshold, whether it was $20 or $200, I was already over that limit. So I would just stop updating my budget and I would stop tracking my expenses. And it just never really helped me get an understanding or learn or just, feel like I was in control of the situation. So I've done away with budgets. I have totally changed my mindset, and I'm now looking at this more as, conscious spending. It's more about, not setting the limits, but more so understanding where and how you're spending your money. And once you get an understanding of that, how much you're spending in certain categories, you understand what's an essential spend versus a nice to have versus a shouldn't have, you can start cutting back in those different categories in order to rein in on your spending and start saving more for your future. That was one of the things that I really wanted to change as well, was to have the ability to look at my finances with an open mind. And I think that what really helped me change that mindset was going into this sort of conscious spending idea where it wasn't about limiting myself. I'm still in the phase where it's really just about learning and understanding where and how I spend my money so that I can get a better grip on it and that I can start cutting back in certain categories that aren't really essential or necessary to my life. And in doing so, I can save more and I can really reach my 2023 financial goals. So in my video today, I'm gonna show you the spreadsheet that I use to track my expenses, how I look at my expenses, and how I use this spreadsheet to identify the areas where I can cut back on spending and save more money and reach my financial goals. Just a few other things to note as well before we jump into this. I think keeping it really simple is that, somewhat silver bullet that has helped me stay consistent with it, because when managing your finances, I do believe consistency is key, and this is the process that has helped me do it. So let's jump in. All right, so let me first walk you through the various sections of what I'm tracking here in this spreadsheet. And first and foremost, let's take a look at income. This is where I'm tracking all of my income throughout the month. And you can see here, I'm tracking my paychecks, and I do break it out into two separate paychecks because with my job, I get paid on the 15th and on the 30th. So I do have that here. I also have a section for any additional income. This could be, returning a pair of pants or making money on YouTube. So that would go here. And then this part is pretty personal to me. This is a Benepass expense category, and this is for my company. We use a platform called Benepass, and we're allowed to expense some of our monthly expenses to the business, and they cover it. So anything that I get reimbursed for goes here. Next up is the savings category. And it could be a little confusing because I have it both here and I also have it up here, and I'll explain the differences in a moment. But these are really more of my long-term saving goals. So I've got my 401k here, and I also have my Marcus account here. So I put a certain percent of my paycheck into my Marcus account. And these both are my very long-term savings account. My 401k obviously, and my Marcus is something I'm planning to contribute to over the length of my career. I do break my savings up into these longer term versus shorter term savings goals. That's where I track them here. So this could be anything from a vacation goal to a house goal, where I can track my contribution to it paycheck over paycheck, the current level that those funds sit at, what my goal is, and how much I have left to contribute to it. So next section is the fixed expenses. So these are expenses I know I'm going to have every single month. And usually when I'm copying the spreadsheet from one month over to the next month, I'll leave these in here, but I did take them out just for purposes of this video. I was going to go through my actual January spend in this video, but this is just the second video on my YouTube channel. Y'all don't really know me yet. I don't know you. I wasn't about to open up and share everything with you. So that's why I've zeroed out this entire spreadsheet. But that video will be coming soon. I do think it's important for people to see other people, how much they make, how much they're spending, how they're thinking about their future and their financial goals. I know for me personally, it has really helped me watching other people's YouTube videos and getting an understanding of, okay, they're making about the same as me. This is how they're spending. This is how much they're saving. All right, that aside, this is where I'm tracking all of my fixed expenses. So we've got my rent, my electricity, these are all expenses and subscriptions that I have. So every single month, I know exactly how much I'll be spending before I even get my first paycheck and before I spend money on anything else that month. One other thing to note that you might be seeing here, because I did zero this out, I've got a lot of these error messages popping up, and one thing that I like to do is break down my expenses by percentages of my total income. So I get an understanding of, okay, my total income, let's just say, is $3,000 a paycheck. I'm making $6,000 after tax a month. Then I'll come in here, my rent is $1,250. So I know right off the bat, 21% of my total income is going to rent. That's not terrible. These numbers also aren't real, but this does help me get a very good understanding of what percent of my total income are being spent on these fixed expenses. And when we get to the next category, on some of my flexible expenses. So on that note, let's jump into that part. Down here is where I keep track of every other expense that I make throughout the month that are not these fixed recurring expenses. And there are a few different columns that I use to track this. So obviously I've got the title, what it is I'm spending the money on. Then I've got the amount, how much it is I spent on it. The next column is the percent. So again, tracking how much of my total income went to this expense. And then I've got categories, broken down between like life admin, self-improvement, groceries, eating out. And then I've got an importance category. And I'll jump into this in a little bit, but the importance category is really how I hone in and I start to figure out where I can start cutting back on the expenses. So to give you a fuller picture of this, let me just run through real quick and fill out some expenses here. I can show you how I use it. So now that I've got my expenses in here, I'm seeing the percentage of my total income that went to these expenses. Let's jump in a little bit into the categories. So everyone's life is different. You're going to track your expenses differently. But for me personally, these are the categories that I am using to track it. So I've obviously got a dog category. Once I go through and I get the categories in, I then go and mark the importance of this. And this is a really important step for me personally to understand, was this a good expense? Should I continue to do it in the future? And the way that I do this is I have 3 different importance levels. I do essential, nice to have, and shouldn't have. And I'll go through here and put these down real quick. So dog food. Now that I've gone through and I've filled out all these expenses, you can see here on the right, I've got these pivot tables that are starting to be populated. The most influential part of the spreadsheet are these pivot tables. So this really helps me get a good idea of where I'm spending my money and how I'm spending it. So this first pivot table breaks it down by all the different categories so I can see the total amount that I'm spending in each category. This second pivot table now is a breakdown of the importance level. So as I go through the month and I update these expenses, I do really want to make sure the essentials are my top spend, nice to haves are the next, and then the shouldn't haves are after that. And once I go through and I complete this, I can look at this, get an idea of where I spent my money, get an idea of how I spent my money, and then I can also come in here and I can always just clear all this and say, all right, show me all my essential costs, show me my essentials and my nice to have, and then show me, what are the expenses I made this month that I shouldn't have. Coffee and DoorDash, very clear example, and things that I currently do that I should not be doing. Another thing that I have on the spreadsheet are these monthly finance actions. These are things that I like to try and do throughout the month to help me just not spend as much. So here I have 5 no spend days, a no spend week, and a no spend weekend. So these are just goals that I have personally for me to try and rein in on some of my expenses. And as I go through and I have a no spend day, I'll just come in here and check these off. And this is just really nice for me to track towards one of my goals that I have. It's just, having more no spend days. I've never done a no spend week yet, I will be honest. It's pretty tough. Now the last piece of this spreadsheet is this piece right here in the middle. So this is where I add up a lot of my totals. So the total amount that I'm saving, total amount of my income that I'm spending. I do break that down into fixed and essential because I do think that these are expenses that I can't really go without. So I like to see how much of my total income goes towards that. And then I like to see how much money I have left over. So as we went through the spreadsheet, you see that I'm already saving money. So if I get to the end of the month and I have $0 left over, that's not a bad thing because I've already put a lot of my income away. I try and save about 20% of my income every single month, and I can track that through here. This is one of the numbers that I look at every month. It's, did I spend too much? Do I still have some money left over? This doesn't roll over next month. It doesn't give me a greater income the following month if there is any money left over. This is just one of the things that even if it's $1 or $2, I can pat myself on the back, know that I didn't spend more than I earned that month, even with saving, and I'm on the right track. And even if this is negative, I am saving a lot of my income. So if I need to cover a credit card bill or anything like that, because I did go over what's left of my income after saving, I can always go into my Marcus app, I can withdraw some money, and I can pay off that bill. And that's it. That's how I manage my expenses every month. I know it's going to look different for you. This system might not work as well for you as it does for me, but I've really found a sense of control when I do break down my expenses like this, when I'm able to track how much I'm saving, when I'm able to get an understanding of how much of my total income certain big expenses are. So this is the system that's worked for me. It's twice a month, not a super heavy lift, not super detailed. Don't need all the graphs, don't need all the charts or anything like that. Just need to understand how much money is being spent where, and this is the system that really helps. If you like this spreadsheet, if you want a version of it, comment down below. Happy to send you a copy of it via email. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to be coming back soon with a breakdown of my January expenses, and I'll try and do this every single month because seeing other people do this on YouTube has really helped me take the strides forward in getting control over my finances. So happy to share it. Hope you come by in the future to check it out, and I'll see you there. Peace.